What's going on, everybody? Bobby Fire, Eric Sheetsaber. We're going to be talking through this big NBA slate, the big NBA Cup. I did look all the stuff into it since our show earlier this morning. I just had to double check all the teams, and it really matters for like most of the teams, a huge portion of the teams: the Suns, Thunder, Spurs, Mavs, Magic, Knicks, Bucks, and then on FanDuel, the Warriors. You could throw in there because all those teams have a chance to still clinch tonight. The biggest news I think that's happened throughout the day is Grady Dick is out, which is just going to make Toronto guys, which already looked good, even better. And Mark Williams is going to play, but a limited minutes for Charlotte. I don't think we were playing Nick Richards anyway. But those were the only real two big pieces of news that I've seen so far. Is there anything that you have different, or anything else what you feel like you're specifically?
It's brutal. I mean, I literally just ran. I guess I got to rerun them without Grady Dick in, but even without that, I'm getting like 100% of like three guys. Right. I mean, I'm getting literally like before I run the Sims, I'm like 100 of this Misic and Scotty Barnes and Jonas Valanciunas.
And my guess is you're going to get a bunch of Jacoby Walter as well.
Who?
Jacoby Walter. He should start at shooting guard for them. Depends on what site you're looking at that have been projected differently. He's probably like Saberson only has him at 18 right now. I manually made it higher. There's a couple other.
What team are you talking about? Oh,
Toronto.
Yeah, I have him at a 14.5 point projection.
I think that's not updated. Is my guess.
That's what I have. My Saberson has him at 18.
Yeah, and I think that you'll see him in the low 20s pretty soon, which is going to make him look like one of the best values on the slate.
So what, we got four guys to lock in? I mean, what are you going to do here? I mean,
it's a rough one. I mean, that game is really hard to get away from. What I would say is I would play more of the guys on the other side of that game, getting to actually a pretty decent amount of a bunch of different guys on the other side. So I'm not saying it's that, you're going to get totally different, but maybe bump up Halliburton, Mathurin, throw some McConnell in there. But I like Siakam already. I like Obi Toppin for the value, Jarris Walker, and it's not a 7:00 game, so you might get more news between now and then.
So this Jacoby Walter, he's going to get the start because Grady Dick is out?
That's the expected starter, yeah. But I don't. If he's not, his projection won't go up as much as I'm saying. But if he is, I think he will. It will go up. It'll either be him or Davion Mitchell. They're both they're 4K and 48 and 3,800. So one of those two is going to look like a good value no matter what.
Well, I'm going to have to wait to see these projections update here before I can speak even mildly intelligently about it. But like you said, I mean, he's certainly going to get. I mean, he's going to be higher than a 14-point projection, I guess, if he's starting, right?
Yeah, I think it'll probably be somewhere around 20. I know that, like, I was just watching the RG thing. They were talking about it, so I can repeat it. But they have him at 20, 22 and a half. He did put up, like, when he's played minutes, like he's sort of been hit or miss. Like he put up 16 in the last couple of games, but he put up 40 3 games ago. He's got upside. Just want to make sure on a slate we're like, even with this value, none of it feels like the greatest value in the world. And because of it, we talked about Giannis earlier. I think that really I'm just sort of cutting it off mostly at Luka. I think I'm going to have a tiny bit of Giannis. Whoever wins that game advances, and it's a big game in Detroit, and it's a close, high-end type game. So I think it's interesting to try to get exposure, but I just like the later games a little bit better than I do that one. And Giannis at 12K is a pretty big difference than 11K for Luka, who basically they're going to end up the season with a very similar average. And I'm surprised that they actually have Walter only at 18 if he does in fact start. They also do have Mitchell at 18 for what it's worth, Saberson. And I think that those two are one of those two is going to probably be, I can't say they're going to be on the winner, but they're probably going to be somewhere in there. And then even guys like Jonathan Mogbo might get more minutes now, just because the way that their rotations and everything work.
So that starts at what time does the Toronto game start?
7:30.
And there's a bunch of sevens, right?
Yeah, the sevens are so that's what I was looking at. Is like in terms of the first games, what would be the things that I'd like to have at least 10% of Tyrese Maxey. I like to get a tiny bit of Paul George, and I don't mind a little bit of Kelly Oubre. And then you have the Misic and the Brandon Miller and the Saloon. those are the other three guys that are, from the early games. But other than that, like the Washington Cleveland game, Joe Val is the obvious one. Jordan Poole is the other one. Everybody else I'm sort of okay having or not. Brogdon would be the next one for me. And then Cleveland, just because it's such a good matchup, I like the idea of getting overweight, but there's no motive for Cleveland to win. For whatever reason, Cleveland somehow has only lost 3 games all year, but 2 of them have been in the NBA Cup play, so they're out of it. It doesn't matter what the winning margin is. So they're not going to leave the guys in the court no matter what. It's not one of those.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a pain in the ass here, but I mean, it's a big slate.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really a slate to be jamming so much of just a few guys?
Look, there's definitely interesting pivots. I mean, the Scotty Barnes, without Grady Dick, especially, like those guys already look like 2 of the best plays, Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. It's the best matchup in basketball. They've got like a 118 total, 117 total. They're at home, so I'm probably going to be overweight total Barrett and Barnes. And then I'll have a bunch of Jacoby Walter or Davion Mitchell who ends up starting, and then I'll probably get some sprinkles of the other ones too. I'm only playing the lottery today, so you're right. You probably would be a good idea. Like I capped Joe Val's ownership for me at 55% because I just didn't want to have like 100% Joe Val tonight, and I kept getting 100% of them. So I just wanted to get I was like, okay, I can deal with 50. I still want 100. And that's obviously one of the earlier games. I also thought it made some sense because because again, there might be news, but to try to get a little bit overweight the Memphis-Dallas game and maybe some pieces from San Antonio-Phoenix, just in case you get that weird piece of late news that we sometimes get.
Hey, I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
Oh, Toronto. Okay, so these Charlotte guys are showing up a little bit more too.
Yeah, the Miller and the Misic, I have 35% Miller right now. I've got 75% Misic, and I've got 25% of Saloon. I just think there's more of a bust path for him than the other ones. It's harder for me to see the other guys busting than it is him.
So we're going to really have to wait to see, I think, who starts between Mitchell and Walter, no?
Yeah, I think and I haven't, like, the way it's being treated projection-wise, I feel like by SaberSim makes you think that you'd guess whichever one. But I'm looking at NBA.com, and the projected starting lineups, most people have Walter as the projected guy.
And the Mogbo, like you mentioned?
Yeah. And the Magic did play 2 bigs. Okay. Yeah, it's you're right. I agree with you in principle, but I don't really know what to do about it because it's not like none of those plays feel fishy to me. The Barrett or the Barnes, probably one of them smashes and the other one does fine, But I don't know. Maybe you could set a rule where you don't want more than 4 or 3 of them or something. But I think it's hard not to have like 2 or 3 in a good portion of your builds. It's just the way I've got it ranked right now. But
that's what I'm getting. That's what I see too. I mean,
yeah. And guys, fire on questions and thoughts when you go in there. And TJ asked if the Bucks the game to target. I don't think so. I don't like nobody. If you want to get contrarian, yes, then you could target that game because I don't see anybody projected to be more than 2% owned in that game. Giannis always ends up like 5%, so it probably won't really be 2. Cade Cunningham, you could play him. But there's nothing that stands out at all for anybody in Milwaukee and Detroit. Like not one guy has like a 5x projection in that game. Except maybe Giannis. Giannis, I think, is just at 5, at 4.94. It's kind of weird to have Giannis projected below 60. It doesn't seem like that's a normal number for him. Let's see something. Ty Jerome. What is that? It doesn't really do much for me except for maybe a little. No, it doesn't really do anything for me, to be honest. Any different plays on FanDuel 3 games? Yeah, so that's a good question. I'll just say my thoughts real quick on that while we're waiting for stuff still. Yeah, I like the both. I like Steph on FanDuel a little bit. I like Trace Jackson Davis a little bit. I like Buddy Hield. So, and then on the Denver side, obviously I always like Jokic. And I think that I would even say that he's probably the best play over best spend up over there. Those are the main ones. And then the Houston, I am just a person who always loves to get overweight Houston because feels like every game 3 guys go nuts, and it's hard to pick which 3. It's usually Şengün and Van Vliet, but Jalen Green is cheap. So yeah, actually, I'm getting to quite a bit of the other games on FanDuel. Actually, I'm not getting to any of the Kings. I'm not getting to any of Portland. Although I don't think DeAndre Ayton's a bad play. And I'm not getting to any Zubac, but I think he and Harden are both in play as well. But I think mostly you're focusing on FanDuel more on the Golden State, Denver, and potentially some of the Houston pieces would be my answer over there.
Let's see something. Direct fill. Yeah, still getting all of this Barnes, Barrett, Misic. I'm still not. I mean, I gotta wait for the update. I'm not really getting the Walker yet.
Walter, yeah. I mean, and look, it's not a must. If this was a slate where we had like a bunch, we had those slates where we had 10 guys like at 7x, basically. This is not one of those slates. That's the only reason why it stands out so much, just because we don't have that many 4K guys starting. I mean, but I don't think it's like a must play. I just think it's a guy who I'm probably going to have 30% of if he's starting, maybe more.
Would you play him off the bench?
So yeah, if he got no ownership off the bench, I probably would have lower ownership. But I probably would have like 10 or 15% of them still. Because Davion Mitchell is just a very frustrating roster. Like he doesn't do anything offensively. So I actually think that you could even argue that maybe it's even better for Walter in some way. Just that because he is a higher usage player than Mitchell, who's one of the lowest usage players in recent NBA history. So I actually like the Walter either way more than Mitchell.
Yeah, so it looks like they're getting like the same projection right now.
Yeah, and that feels a little like hedgy. I think if one of them starts, they'll go up a couple points. The other guy will down.
I think so. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
You like some of like the good players at all? You like any like Luka, Morant?
Love Luka. Luka's a guy.
Wemby.
I think that it's I think the speculation and taking a shot with just taking a shot and really this is not NBA Cup related. This is just that at some point we are going to start seeing some real minutes out of Ja Morant, and I'd like to kind of be there when that happens, when you get him at no ownership. I just don't know if it's going to happen quite yet. So I'm not saying get a bunch, but I like the idea of getting to like at least 1 or 2 Luka Morant lineups.
Let me see what FanDuel is looking like. Think it's going to look any different?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more. I think you're going to see that the later games show up.
Oh my God, what's all this Jeremy Sohan?
Because his price over there is so much cheaper. He's 6,100 on DraftKings, and he's power forward eligible, and he's only 4,700 over there. So he, as high as he's expected to be owned, expect that he's going to be higher than that. I'm not saying you shouldn't play him.
I'm currently getting 79.5% of him.
I have 38% of him, but I totally I understand why that's happening. There's just not that much value, and he's got he's the second best point per dollar play on the site over there, projection wise.
Jeremy Sohan, the center.
Jeremy, yeah, the 79 power forward. Oh, there's K-Dine's asking about him just as we answered it. Yeah, 38% for me. Sheets has currently got 70-something%.
Yeah. Right. And as always, it's a late night. It's a late swap slate as usual.
Yeah, especially over there.
But I mean, you get to see what happens with these Charlotte clowns, right?
Yeah. I can't imagine they're going to do anything different than what their current projected start. Maybe they'll start Mark Williams and Nick Richards won't start, but I don't think that makes any difference. You can't play Williams on a minutes restriction. So I just reran and I put my own little spin on a few different things, but it's getting hard for me to get away from this Misic play.
Yeah. Okay. I feel better then.
Yeah. I mean, I've got him, and I'm trying to I don't love the idea of having 100%, but I'm probably going to be in that close to 80% range. Do I need to play 80% of Scotty Barnes and 50% or 60% of RJ Barrett? Maybe I can say, okay, I'll just get 70% of Scotty Barnes instead of 80. Or maybe I can say with Misic, okay, I'll get 70% instead of 80. But really, you're just playing it because of variance, because it's pretty. I mean, from a point per dollar perspective, the Toronto guys look like the best things out there, basically. Oh, Jerry's asking me a question about any money line bets for tonight. It's a good question. I think I would take. It's not a money line bet, but I kind of like the Bucks -2.5 at Detroit. I'm rooting for Detroit, so I like to see them keep going, and I like their young talent. So I hope I'm wrong, but I like that one a little bit. I like Indiana -3 against Toronto, and that Memphis Dallas total, I totally buy it, but maybe it's a little bit high. Maybe you could go under in that game. Although they're gonna, I mean, the way these teams play, it's a rough under to bet, but 244 is a pretty big number. I also think there's the Warriors Nuggets game. The spread seems the total seems a little higher than I would imagine, and I think the Clippers Trailblazers, I like the under also at this 221. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right. Cavs are starting Garland, Mitchell, Okoro, Mobley, Allen. Nothing surprising.
Just waiting on this stupid starters of the Toronto.
Yeah. If Dean Wade is available, and he was questionable earlier, and I'm not even sure how much he plays, so maybe he'll just play a few minutes. But I was thinking about like even playing like when Okoro, like the play makes no, like it's just he's always the same play. But you have a team that turns the ball over a ton and they don't play defense. So if Okoro was going to sneak his way at 4K into 25 fantasy points tonight, seems like a good night to do that. Maybe a little bit higher even. It's possible. All right, let's see. Let me just reapply this. Let's rebuild one more time here. But mostly for me, I'm other than the obvious pieces from Charlotte, the Mitchich and the Brandon Miller. I think that I want to mostly try to wait with the majority of my lineups at least. And my bold take for the night is that Brandon Miller will be. I actually think he's going to get like somewhere between 50 and 65. Somewhere.
Oh, you think he's going to go off, huh?
Yeah, I do. It's not like the dream matchup. It's not a great scoring, but like who else? It's only he and Mitchich who create anything on their whole team. Like they don't have another player who can create a shot. I think Josh Green standing in the corner. Saloon is just he's 19, he's a baby. You know what I mean? Nick Richards, Mark Williams can do things, but he's only going to play probably 16 or 18 minutes.
You think? Oh, he's limited, right?
Yeah, he hasn't played yet this year. I hope they keep his price like that because I'll start playing him like crazy once he starts getting full run. What other things do we have in there? All right, let's see. So, yeah, I love the Scotty Barnes play, but it does feel weird to play like 80%, like you mentioned, of almost anybody. Especially in that 8K range, because it could just as easily, although I am getting 50% of RJ Barrett too. And my game, I mean, before I even set anything, it was giving me 70+% of game stacks there, mostly 2-1s, but a lot of 2-2s. And now they're like 3-2s. That just seems like a very obvious place to stack.
What, Toronto, Atlanta, Indiana?
Yeah.
And who are you going to use on Indiana, you said?
So the obvious ones I feel like are Siakam and to some extent Miles Turner, but I'm actually just going to go out of my way and play Halliburton. Look, you talk about wide range of outcomes this year. I mean, it's like he'll put up like 3 games in a row in the 20s, and then he'll put up like 65 and 60 next couple games, and it's the nut matchup. So if you're going to do it, this to me seems like the spot where I would want to do it for what it's worth. Okay, so I'm going to lower just 70. 75. K9's asking about how much Trace Jackson Davis did I get to on FanDuel. I have too much of it, so I have to rerun my FanDuel in a bit. But in my first builds, I had like 80%. By the end of the day, I probably end up with like 50 or 60.
Trace Jackson Davis?
Although his projection came down a ton, and I'm not sure why. So let me just. I'm missing something.
Currently have 30% of him.
We got 30. Yeah, I've got. See, this is coming with 83, but his projection has dropped like 4 points, and I don't see any news that made it drop. I'm kind of wondering.
I have him with a 31, maybe
31 what minutes?
Oh, ownership. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, ownership. Yeah, ownership.
I have it, my projection like 23.
Yeah, it feels a little aggressive to play like 80% like I had him at first. And I have the projections. Looking at a few different sites, 22 to 24. So 23 makes sense to me. But it's just the lack of value over there. But I would rather play Sohan than Trace Jackson Davis. He's 300 more.
Yeah, I think so. He's just got better minutes, I think.
Yeah. It's just more secure minutes. We just know Trace Jackson Davis, his minutes tend to fluctuate quite a bit. I think the thinking people have when they try to project him on a slate like today is they think, oh, Trace Jackson Davis, because Jokic is out there, will have more minutes. But why does that have to be the case when Looney often gets more minutes in those situations? So I actually don't think that necessarily has to be the case. This is a tough question. It's always tough to have these. It's got a single bullet. Who's the best play on the slate? Everything considered. Well, the best plays are probably the guys, probably Misic and Scotty Barnes. But do you want to play that high of ownership, on these guys? Those are two that I have. But for a single bullet, guys, I'm way overweight. I'm way overweight on Jarris Walker. I'm way overweight on Isaiah Hartenstein. I thought I'd be way overweight on Karis LeVert, but his ownership came up. I'm overweight a lot on Jacoby Walter. But that's projection he starts. The Plumlee one is the one I'm having the hardest time with. I've seen his projection jump like 50 times today, and I'm just trying to figure out like what. There's no news of anything of any sort. I really don't understand it. So that's the hardest one I'm having a hard time with. I actually think I just would like to get more than the field on him, which won't take much. Is he really going to be 4% owned? Seems a little bit pathetic. I know he only played 15 and 16 minutes the last couple of games in this, but this is against Wemby. Unless they want to go small and double the whole game, they really don't have another big that they can play. They can play Iguodala, Iguodala did play the minutes in the last one, but that was against Golden State. It doesn't play a traditional scoring big. So I would guess Plumlee would be the one out there, but I don't know.
1923. Yeah, Walter. Yeah, I think Walter could be interesting off the bench too.
Yeah,
and obviously much lower ownership.
Yeah, and this projection the Saloon is one that I don't want to be overweight on. I'm just if I end up near the field, okay, but I'm certainly not trying to play him like whatever percentage they keep trying to give to me. I keep trying to cap him because I just don't want to play like 1,000,000%. I also think that even though I'm playing a decent amount of him, I think RJ Barrett, I don't really want to have him in half my lineups. He always has a bust path. Even remember, there were games without Scotty Barnes available where he wasn't getting there at times. I like him in general as a player. He's having a good year and certainly has a ceiling, but I don't know if I want to have him in half my lineups on a big slate. So yeah, my current highest owned players are, again, you're gonna have mostly chalk in basketball, but right now it's Misic, Scotty Barnes, Valanciunas, Brandon Miller, Barrett. Getting a lot of Obi Toppin, but I think it's because I want like all the pieces from that game. And a little bit spread out other than that.
Walker. I guess he's going to have a 20, low 20s projection at the end of the day.
Yeah. Even if it's not low 20s, like I just feel like I kind of have a feeling who he is. I don't think he's like a guy you want to lock in either way, no matter what happens like tonight. But I also think that he's got enough upside to where I really want to go there. Here's a good question: Plumlee or Saloon? One lineup call for me. It's Plumlee because of the ownership. Saloon is definitely safer for the minutes. It really depends on the rest of your lineup. If you're trying to get different and you don't have any other differentiator, I would play Plumlee. But if you have other ways to get different, I would say Saloon is probably safer, at least for the minutes. I wonder how much Jordan Poole getting to.
Nothing. I mean, like.
Oh, really? I've got a bunch of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Three, 1, 2, 3.
Let's just see Walter if that's been
on. I'll run this again, but again, it's like I said, whoever gets this. See, if Walter gets the start, I think Davion Mitchell's probably unplayable. I think, but like if Davion Mitchell gets a start, I think you still play Walter.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Because Walter did have like 25% usage in the few games he played. I guess.
Yeah, 2 out of the last 3 games he had over 25% usage.
Was that right?
Yeah. So I like that. I like that idea. I think I'm just going to roll with that one no matter what. And I'm going to make sure I'm over the field on him no matter what. I think. I should kind of hope he doesn't start now.
And then at the end of the day, it's just going to be like Luka and Morant going overtime. Is that the story?
Yeah, maybe, right? It is possible. It's on the. I mean, I do think that the Luka one that's the one I feel I just feel like whenever he's 11K, and especially against the team that plays the second fastest pace in the NBA, I just think they're supposed to like try to hammer it in. Because it's not like he can just put up 70. It's like no, he can put up like 85. Like because if he puts up 70, there are other ways to beat it. But if he puts up 85, you're starting to talk about a pretty narrow path because he's still going to get enough people playing him to where some many people are going to have it. All right. Thoughts on Cade against Milwaukee? Yeah, I think the Cade play is totally fine. It's just the 9,700 price tag. Cade and Shea are 1K different. You could certainly argue that for Cade. Sure. I just personally didn't get to much of it. I think I have like 3%. Not like nothing, but close to nothing. I'm just seeing if there's any other starting lineups. No, nothing else here.
That'll be after lock.
How about this Magic team? They lose Paolo and they become the best team in the league.
Yeah.
They've won what? 12 out of 13, 11 out of 12, 12 out of 13?
Is this the first time Franz Wagner's been at Madison Square Garden since he's become like a star?
It's a good question. I don't think his brain works like that. That's the thing that's funny. The coach actually said about him, his biggest problem is that he doesn't want to, he thinks it's being unselfish to keep passing the ball and get everybody involved. He's like, I'd rather him just go out there and shoot 30 times, Right. Who else do we have over there? Let's see. All right, I'm just getting my phone. Oh, starting to level out a little bit and not get so much of everybody. Okay, but Brandon Miller is going to be along with Scotty Barnes, but they're very close for me. The situations are fairly similar. It's just there's a better matchup for Barnes, but at the same time, Brandon Miller. I mean, take LaMelo off the court, it's a big difference. That team, LaMelo has like a 900% usage rate. But without him, you got to imagine that Miller's going to get Miller's been at 38 and 37 his usage rate in the last 2 games. I just think he's going to have a big one tonight, unless he misses every shot. He's taken 55 shots the last 2 games. And okay, so we're going to go with this. Jarris Walker, huh? Okay.
So I was trying something new with the UFC content. I'm literally doing a video every day. Mm-hmm. Just kind of tracking my takes across the course of a week. Like Monday, I did one with just like my first look takes, like without absorbing any content, not even seeing the props or anything like that. And today, all the props came out, so I re-looked at everything with the props in mind. And tomorrow, I'm going to do like my first kind of like attempt at a build, maybe. When first, I'm going to be finding it curious to see, at the end of the day, how much my Friday takes resemble the Monday takes.
Right.
It'll be interesting exercise.
I love that stuff. Let's see what we got here. On Franz under 29.5 points. We'll see, Jimmy. It's possible. I like that his over-under, though, is 29.5. That's a big number.
Whose?
Franz points. It's not a good matchup. It's literally like it's a terrible statistical matchup for him. So that's why I didn't get to much of him today. But I don't have nothing.
Valanciunas play seems kind of fishy still to me. I don't know.
If he starts, I'm good with it. If he doesn't, it's
well, he's going to start, isn't he? I mean, like
no. I mean, well, maybe. I mean, they've been starting star at center all season. Now they're talking about playing both of them together. I think there's a way for Yabusele to get 35 or more DK points. I'm not playing much of him because of his price, but I think there's totally a path.
Who from Philly?
Yeah. That was another question we had. I wouldn't worry about the Madison Square Garden angle. I was just more worried that if you look at Franz Wagner without Paolo, his usage rate, he's only had like one game, or I think he's had 2 games in the 20s usage-wise. Everything else has been in the 30s, including multiples in the 40s. He's going to do he was 4 for 17 in his last game, 4 for 17, and he put up 45 fantasy points. So, he's going to do something. He gets the assists too. He gets the rebounds. Let's do this. I like this Walker idea. I think I've sort of just sold myself on it.
Walter?
Walter, yeah. I think it just it also makes sense if you're going to try to get less exposure to Scotty Barnes or if you're not going to have 100% of those guys, like that's the other route. It's him or Podol, basically. So this is my new thing I'm trying, and you can tell me how stupid I am or not. I'm I'm open to feedback. But when I'm playing at least let's say I've got, 4 guys in the first round of games at 20% or higher that I'm playing. I'm using my takes, but then as I'm adjusting, I'm sort of letting SaberSim decide a little bit more for me and clearing out my min and max exposures and letting it, not entirely rolling with it, maybe putting in like 1 or 2 takes. I think my problem is I've been making too many takes, and the builder just works differently than the builder I used to do really well with. So it's making those decisions for me. And I think I've got to try and find ways to try and incorporate it, or maybe take a stand on 4 or 5 plays versus trying to get an exact percentage of each player. You know what I'm saying? What do you think?
No, my advice to you, and I talk about this a lot, is to not go from the bottom up and to go from the top down. Like I would start the builds by building 5,000 or however many you would build without doing anything. Mm-hmm. And after you have that pool, then you adjust.
That is what I do.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant you adjust, then you have it built.
No, I'm saying that, but I'm talking about clearing it, unless clearing it for the in between. Because like if they're accounting for all the things on late swap, there's no way my brain can work as well as a computer's brain is going to work. So they're accounting for all things. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, the last 2 weeks of NFL, I didn't quite hit a big one, but I came close a couple times, and it was because largely what they gave me, and I put like 1 or 2 different plays here and there where I thought I had a chance. I actually feel like it's been easiest for me to work with in football, just because there's that time. And basketball, every 20 minutes you're chalking, then everything changes because the guy's in, but the projections don't necessarily update in time. You know what I mean?
What's Walter's first name?
Valanciunas is starting, by the way. Jacoby. It's Jacoby. All right, guys, we got a bunch of you in there. Please give us a like, thumbs up. Please ask any more questions, because I'm going to try to finish these builds and possibly get out of here in a little bit. I'll just say right now that what I've got is that there are 4 players that I have over 50% of: Misic, Barnes, Brandon Miller, and Joe Val. And Joe Val, I literally had to cap at 50 because they're trying to give me every single version of him. What if the game doesn't play like they think? What if he gets into foul trouble? What if they get smoked and he's not going to play the other minutes? What if he just has one of those weird games where they decide to only play him like 16 minutes? There's just too many bus pads. But I literally had to. I mean, the SaberSim projection especially loves him tonight. It's just hard. It's rough. I do think the saloon play, though, is one I could try to get under the field on. That's just my take.
What's Jacoby Walter on FanDuel?
Good question. I don't think he's necessarily going to be as relevant over there. That's kind of interesting because, let's see. He's 41, actually. I think, no, yeah, he's very reasonable over there. Actually, he might even make more sense over there. Well, maybe not more, but there aren't as many cheap shooting guards over there. Okay, let's rebuild one more time here. Anyway, yeah, I was telling you 35 or more. Rounds under 29.5.
Why is
Corey's asking for the top 2 GBV plays. Well, I just said all the guys who I've got the most ownership of. In terms of get different plays, let's see who I have. I don't think Lucas considers that. I think Plumlee is the guy I like the best as a get different play. Because the path makes sense to me. And Wemby's a great defender, but he's a great help side defender. You got to remember, no matter how good you are, like defensively, if you're going to block shots, who's getting the offensive rebound and put? I mean, he does that twice. He's already at 6.5. You know what I mean? Like he's only
right.
okay. I love that against Gobert too. I always think that it's the biggest mistake when people don't want to play bigs. Like, oh, but I'm worried about Gobert's defense. I just don't ever worry about it. Like he's got his block shots usually come from help side stuff. Wow, Jacoby Walter, there now something's popping up because he just, how did I get that much of him? Yeah, his projection, let's see.
Like 21 maybe? I mean,
they just put it up to 20, a little over 20. Okay. All right, now I'm getting a little bit, this is good. Okay, I don't have quite as insane of ownership as I did in some cases that didn't quite feel right to me. This feels a little bit better.
hate this slate. I just don't like the start time of the 7:30 game.
What you mean? What do you mean?
Toronto game. I just
Wow.
you got to commit to the 7:00 Toronto Charlotte thing first, and
That's
Washington.
That's why I think it makes some sense to lower the saloon ownership and just you spread it. Like I believe in Brandon Miller tonight. I don't that $8K that he costs is not going to make a difference if there's later value because I would have played him anyway. You know,
Right.
Ayton or Turner as a pivot off FanDuel instead of Jovel. Absolutely, I agree with that. I would go Turner K9 myself just because the game environment and the shot blocking / steal upside. But I think they're both viable options off of Jovel for sure. So that's what I did with the earlier games. I lowered, outside of Misic and Brandon Miller, I lowered my exposure on the value in the first games. Just because, again, starting lineup change and anything could change everything completely. I've got 35% of the Jacoby Walter now. And I think he's actually going to end up being more popular than people think.
It's just tough because you got to play these guys early.
Yeah. I mean, even though I still have a lot of these guys, like I'm other than Brandon Miller, I'm probably going to be below the field on everybody else. I don't think Misic is only going to be 40% owned. I think he's going to be like 60% owned. Pistons starting Cunningham, Ivy, Hardaway, Harris, Duren. Nothing surprising there. Okay. Everything is pretty much going according to plan right now. And I am going to do the Plumlee thing. I want to make sure I'm well overweight on that one. So yeah, like what's the value of playing Plumlee over Saloon, even though I know they're different positions, but they're the same price?
It's later.
It's later.
And it's not like Saloon's any kind of lock or anything like that.
No, he's like, I mean, the guy like literally he he might get there sometimes, but he's just a young guy. He's going to have a huge range of outcomes. 2 of his last games have been 10. No, 4 of his last 6 games have been 10 or below. He started those games too. If I really had the balls, I might just X him out, but I don't think I'm going to do that. But I do have Plumlee and him the same amount now.
Well, it's so funny. I'm getting, what'd you say you were getting of Walter?
I'm at 40% now.
I'm like 37.
Okay. Yeah.
Like right there.
Yeah.
And I'm getting only, I guess, my top owned guy is Mitchich, and he's 68. So it's not like I have, like you said, it's not like I have 90 of anybody.
Yeah, and I just got down to 65 of Mitchich, and I'm at Scotty. I've got 58, and I've got Brandon Miller 58.
And I got 54 Valanciunas.
And I've got 50 because I made 50 as the maximum. But otherwise, I probably would have gotten a lot more.
Okay. This will go up here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get out of here.
Okay.
We'll do you have your call, and then after that we'll do you want to do maybe an NFL look after the NBA tomorrow? I don't know what the schedule is tomorrow.
Yeah, there's the NBA tomorrow. But the only thing is sometimes they don't have they'll probably have it by Wednesday.
What?
So yeah, I'm good with that afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, even just an early look, whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah, even if we don't have all the projections, it's not like we can't figure things out.
Yeah.
I did most of my life without projections. So.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna run.
All right, bud. Take it easy.
See you later.
Okay, guys, I'm probably going to head out of here pretty soon as well. If I have anything relevant comes up later, I'll pop back in and let you guys know what I'm doing. I'll certainly be in our Discord no matter what. Okay, so 12/3, and that was at 342. Okay, that's the one I'm using right now. And then we're going to see what we got. And then I have to get to my FanDuel stuff. Rody's only getting to 2%, Walter. Okay. I don't think there's some sort of a lock. I'm just saying anything I can do to delay when there's already funky value or, to start with. But my highest owned players in order are Mitchich, Barnes, Miller, Valanciunas, Luka. That's what I've got right now.